Hello and welcome to another edition of my Become Unstoppable series. And as usual, I've got an amazing guest. So Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me on your interviews. I'm Sara. I have my own company called Mindfulness, and I work as a relaxed kids coach and as a functional breath coach, just teaching young adults, children, and adults the skills of relaxation, mindfulness, and functional breath work, in the hope that they can better manage their nervous system and feel good.
I love that. And we will obviously talk more about that in a bit, but that's very close to my heart too. So those who don't know me, I'm Julie Fitzpatrick and I'm the founder of Millieside Therapy and Coaching. And I work with corporates, I work with personal clients, but really at the undercore of it all is trying to help people to free them from their stress so that they can build their confidence, find their mojo and become unstoppable. And I work with my clients, as I say, in corporate environments, in group programs and on one-to-one packages as well. So at the end of this, you'll be able to find us both. Don't worry, we'll put it all out there for you. So we hope you enjoy our interview today. So Sarah, before I forget, I've got to ask you my very famous question of what does being unstoppable mean to you?
That's an interesting one, isn't it? And I actually had to give it some thought because I don't necessarily see myself as unstoppable. But then I thought about how I live my life and I thought about what I do. And I think actually the reason I'm unstoppable is because I know how to stop. I have learned the valuable skill of taking a pause and becoming more mindful, more present, more aware of my inner state. And I think through that, I'm much more able to cope with what life throws at me. So hence my kind of passion for getting that message out there and teaching some simple kind of tools and techniques to help people with that stuff. Just kind of knowing about the stress response and how to kind of hack your biology almost. And just building resilience. I quite often use the Tigger quote. Don't know if you've seen it. Life isn't about how fast you run or how high you jump, but about how well you bounce. And I think it's just those little things that you can add into your life that can help you to kind of keep going, you know, when the going gets tough. So I think...
Yeah, definitely. Sure. That's a really good answer. I like that. I like the fact that you thought that you wasn't unstoppable and then you decided that actually you are. So well done for that, for a start. And I get this a lot, actually. When I get people who I meet and I go, do you want to come on my interview series? They go, no. I go, why not? I don't think I'm not unstoppable yet. And I'm like, seriously. There's a really good example of this. I was on a branding retreat recently and there was loads of amazing people there. But there was one particular lady who had gone through so much. I won't go into it, but she'd gone through so much trauma in her childhood and in her adult life. And now she's come out being a business owner with this wonderful brand, right? And it's like, how can you say that that's not an unstoppable story?
Wow.
It's bizarre, isn't it? And that's because many people do it because we don't look back at what we've done and what we've achieved, you know, and we'll go into this in a little bit more detail, but being a business owner can be challenging, right? It's got lots of challenging elements, probably more challenges than we want, really. But it's about reflection and going, do you know what? Look how far you've come, innit? You know, and you actually said that to me before we went live. But when you know, I started this journey August 2020 when I got made redundant. But when I say started the journey, I just started retraining myself and thinking, oh, this is what I'm going to do, right? And then I finally went all in 100% in December 22. So I'm only 18 months really in properly, if you like.
Amazing.
And it's like, blimey, look what I've done, look what I've achieved. But I could sit here all day long going, oh my God, I've not done that yet, and I've not done that, and I've not got enough clients, I haven't got enough, I haven't got enough. Oh, look at all the negative stuff. But actually, that's just bringing your vibration down, isn't it? And it's to look at the positive things that you've done. That's where you get that, put that smile back on your face, pat yourself on the back, get that dopamine hit, and get the happy more hormones flowing through your body. But we're all masters, really, aren't we? Well, not all of us. Most of us probably are masters of thinking about what things that we haven't done and focusing on that. And where your energy goes, where your focus goes, that's where your energy goes, isn't it? So if you're focusing on the lack, scarcity, because it's fear, right, then that's what the focus is really going to go, rather than thinking about, oh my God, what could you be doing?
Yeah. And that self-awareness, I think, for me has been massive, like noticing my inner critic, noticing that voice. And I think mindfulness has really helped me with this, just knowing that voice is often there telling me that I'm not good enough, that, I can't do it. Other people do it better. People are watching, people are judging. And actually learning how to find my inner coach, the voice that says, yeah, I mean, this is where growth happens. This is difficult. This is challenging, but this is what's going to help you grow. And, you are on a journey. This isn't the kind of, just be patient and take the opportunities, keep knocking on the doors. There's just, like you said, it's where you put your focus, it's your mindset, how you're going to deal with what's ahead. So yeah, I totally with you there.
What you think about, you bring about as well, isn't it? That's the other thing as well.
So what was that? What you say that again?
What you think about, you bring about. Right? So in other words, if you're thinking about, oh my God, how terrible my life is, I hate my job, I hate my kids, I hate my husband, or whatever, all the negative stuff, then you're just going to attract more of that. However, when we want to think about what we bring about in a positive way, we want to think about, like you and I, it'd be like, I want to think about how can I get more clients? What would they love? What can I help them with? How do I get into the corporate world? How do I get into other places where I can speak and share my story? It's about how can I, rather than, oh God, I'm never going to be able to do that. No one's going to want me. What's the point, right?
Yeah.
Obviously no one will want you, and there is no point if you're going to be in that mindset, but you have to be open to opportunities. But easier said than done. I can say that because I've done a lot of work on myself. You've done a lot of work on yourself, and you've heavily invested in growing your business, in growing your knowledge, so that you've got a skill that you can take out there. Same with me. I mean, I published something recently. I think I spent about £80,000 over the last few years training myself, business-wise, personal-wise. Now, when I look back on that, I think, oh my goodness, and am I still paying for it right now? Yeah, I am, but I'm still paying it in a positive way as well, because I would not be where I am now if I hadn't have done,
Yeah.
And you have to.
And you were able to do that.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
Just and the fact that I think gratitude comes in here as well. Like, you are fortunate enough to be able to train yourself to get to be able to take your work out further, and looking at what we've got, what we're able to do in our lives, not what we're not able to do and what we're held back by. But that I do this with families an awful lot. Just really focusing in on the tiny brilliant things that are happening each day that just go without, if we don't actually take a pause and notice, then they're gone, and we're just kind of back in that monkey mind, thinking and worrying about the next taking ourselves into the future.
And a couple of things I was going to say to you. One was when you said there about your inner voice, your inner commentator, whatever people want to call it. It's AKA the stories you're telling yourself, right? And I cover that in quite detail in my group program. But it's also, another word for it is also imposter syndrome, right? Because it's like, well, you. I'm not saying this is you, but this could be me or you, right? Going, well, what if no one wants what I'm selling? What if? Oh my God, what if they just see through me and they realise that I don't actually know what I'm talking about? I mean, what if I have someone who doesn't get any results? Oh my God, what if they know more than me? What if, and you can spend your whole day, can't you, in a voice? Is that the sort of thing you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I think I've just, some of it as well is sometimes it's there for a reason, isn't it? It's there to protect you, just like your brain works to protect you and sometimes overprotects. So I think that's where like the mindfulness that I do comes in, because there is an element of kind of accepting those, that voice, maybe not the voice so much, but the feelings behind that, the kind of the fear, and acknowledging, well, that fear is here for a reason, because it wants to keep me safe and safe from harm, and it wants your to protect you, to protect me. But then using kind of my values in terms of what is it that I really want to get out of my life to take me forwards. So I think there's also a lot of power in acknowledging those tricky feelings and the inner critic, and like, what are you trying to tell me, and why are you saying this? And then like finding your response based on what is actually really important to you as a person in your authentically in your life. So that's been really helpful to me, not kind of dismissing the voice, but working with it and kind of growing from it.
I mean, I'd say a few things about that as well, right? Number one, when we get these the commentator on our shoulder, the negative Doris one, what we need to do is make sure that we hear what it's saying, but we have to decide whether it's worth worrying about or not. So we have to challenge the thought, because the only thing we can control in our lives is our thoughts, which is quite a powerful statement to make, right? But if you think about it, it's true, because we can't control the weather, we can't control other people, we can't control so many things, but the only thing we can do is control this. But the problem is, most of us who haven't invested in ourselves don't know how to do that. So in the example of the inner critic, the inner talker, most people will take notice of it, right? And it'll be going,
I always did.
Yeah, you're rubbish, Sarah. No one's going to listen to you. No one's interested in what you've got to say. Who do you think you are? So your positive one over here is like, on a good day, no, go away. I'm not acknowledging you. But if you're having your what we call the pity party, or not feeling top dollar today, then it's like
we call it stinking thinking. Stinking thinking in relaxing.
I like that.
Stinking
thinking. I was talking to my niece the other day, who's 10, and she said they treat at school, they call it the devil and something. And I was like, oh, don't know if I like that. Devil and angel, I think what she said.
Interesting.
She
At
said,
least they're talking about it.
Devil. And I'm like, oh, well, no, that didn't really sit very well. Anyway, we digress. But yeah, whatever your positive, negative is, right? And on a good day, we will bat it away. But on a not so good day, we will take it on board, and then we'll allow it to impact the whole of our body. And it'll make us, because if we feel depressed or down or miserable, our whole body reflects that, doesn't it? As opposed to if we feel happy, our body posture is so much different. But the problem is, if you're having more bad days than you're having good days, then that negative Nelly is going to drag you down, right? And then we get caught up in the stories that we're telling ourselves. So we listen to that. Oh, Julie, you're rubbish. No one's going to listen to you. Who's going to buy your products anyway? What have you got? Who do you think you are on social media? No one cares, right? But the difference is we need to acknowledge those, and we have to differentiate between what's right and wrong. But the problem is it's also linked into our subconscious mind, where all our limiting beliefs, trapped feelings and emotions are held. So if we're running on a belief system that believes deep down that we're not good enough, then this negative Nelly it's just going to keep winning, because it's not going to be able to outpower the positive side of us. So your positive commentator is going to get sucked up by negative Nelly all the time if your deep-rooted limiting beliefs are negative. Which is why my work comes in, because I go deep diving and we go and dig out and find that negative belief, and we throw it away and replace it with new powerful beliefs. And then you just become who you want to be.
Yeah.
So that's when the investing in yourself comes in, doesn't it? Right? You can watch YouTube, you can read books, you can do all the education you like, but knowing it and doing it are not the same thing.
That's it. I mean, I think a lot of sorry, carry on.
No, go on. Go.
Oh, no, a lot of the tools that I teach are so simple that people are not putting them into their lives because they're too simple. And I think there is a need for people like me to say, hey, look, you've got your body. You can use your body to send a message to your mind. There are so many different things you can do. You don't have to go to a shop or buy anything. You just need to learn these tools and techniques, similar to coming to you, learning about what's going on internally, so that you can make that switch, so that then as you go on for the next part of your journey, you've got this new skill set, this new mindset that takes you in a totally different direction. It's so powerful.
It is. And what I do with my clients as well is I do the subconscious changes, but also the conscious coaching as well. So they get all the coaching, like breathing and all that as well, because it is so powerful. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But before we do that, can you just give us all a little bit of a rundown, really, then, about how you ended up doing what you're doing, and what is it you're actually really doing?
Yes, well, good question. So as from a young age, I always wanted to be a teacher, and I trained as a teacher after university, teaching early years. I think early years particularly because I just love the kind of social and emotional side of education. And I knew that with the little ones, you can kind of take them where they're at and let them lead the way. And then as they go through the education system, I think it changes a little bit. And then I had my own children, and basically what has become very clear is that we're living with a kind of prehistoric brain, if you like, caveman brain, in a modern, fast-paced society. And
Yes.
I think for children, these children are overstimulated, they're overwhelmed, they're very busy, sometimes overscheduled. Same with the adults, incredibly busy. It's like the busy badge of honor. Don't want to stop, because if you stop, it's all just going to fall apart. So I kind of witnessed that, and I can see that something's missing in the education system. I felt. I mean, so yes, I trained in 2018 as a relaxed kids coach, where I learned to explain in a really simple way about the stress response using puppets. And then we've got a meerkat for the amygdala, an elephant for the hippocampus, and an owl for the prefrontal cortex, just to kind of demonstrate how those different parts of the brain work, and how the prefrontal cortex, the rational part, is very easily scared. We say, the owl flies away when the meerkat sets the alarm off. So we have this lovely kind of background to why we do what we do. And then we use a 7-step program. You can see some of the 7 steps behind me, just really briefly, like working through movement exercises. So maybe mindful movement, or movement to regulate the nervous system. Knowing that kind of playing, having fun, connecting with people is really important in terms of helping you to feel good and relaxed. Relaxation isn't all about lying on a bed. It's about doing things that you love and connecting with people, and stretching our bodies, stretching out our muscles, so that we can release the tension, and perhaps sometimes focus on, if you're doing the tree pose, for example, you're having to focus really hard on your balance. So it takes you away from your busy mind. this one, Feel, is really about the power of positive touch and massage, self-massage, the power of a hug, releasing the oxytocin, I think they say the 20-second hug, don't they, that just makes you feel all kind of relaxed and gooey. And then the power of the breath, which is a big one for me, because I use breathing exercises every day to help to regulate my nervous system, and just teaching kids, you know, simple things that they can do. I'll show you this. This is my breathing ball. So getting the children to kind of breathe with the breathing ball, trying to get their air into their tummies. So as you breathe in, you've got to imagine the ball is like your tummy, and I get them to put their hands on their tummies and just breathing in as the tummy expands, and then breathing out slowly as the tummy goes down again. Because sometimes we can breathe in a reverse type of way, and you sometimes see kids taking a like that and sucking in and then letting it all go, and that's like, actually that's reverse breathing. We need to be training ourselves to breathe into our tummies. So breathing exercises, and then believing in ourselves, which is using positive affirmations to, you know, to perhaps help combat that inner critic, to really try and believe in ourselves. And we end with a relaxation of normally a visualization, the power of visualization to kind of take us to somewhere slightly more relaxing than the thoughts that might be going around in our minds. And so that's very, very quickly with stop tour of 7 steps, but that's how I would work through a relaxed kids.
That's brilliant. Yeah,
with kids.
And it's so true, because like you say, it's about, it is literally going, I say back to basics, but it's not back to basics if you don't know it in the first place, is it? But it's just getting the basics down, you know. And you will know about Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, his triangle, and it's all about, you've got to get that firm foundation. Yes, it's great that you might have a house to live, or maybe you don't, you know, you've got your food, water, shelter and all that, but it's about getting that feeling of safety and security, isn't it? And breathing, relaxing and being in the present moment gives all of that to you, because it's about being with yourself. Like you say, there's so many different breathing techniques. I tend to favour 6-6 breathing, coherent breathing, but any of them are fine. It doesn't really matter, does it? As long as you're breathing, changing the physiology in your body so you're calming yourself, be present. And that means not doing anything, just being present in the moment. And then once you can start doing that, that's when you can start loving yourself again, isn't it? Or loving yourself for the first time, because you're taking time out for yourself. And actually, that's exactly what my group program is all about. When I was trying to put that together, I was on a training course, and it's like, okay, what's your program about? And I'm like, I don't know, what do I want my program to be about? But what I did was I went through all my client files, and every single one of them said they feel stressed. They don't look after themselves, in the sense that they don't necessarily exercise all the time. They don't necessarily eat properly all the time. But the biggest thing, and you mentioned it earlier, was about time. The stories we tell ourselves about time. And I've just recorded this in my group program, funny enough. You know, I'm too busy to think about myself. I'm too busy to exercise. I'm too busy to eat properly. I'm too busy to do this. I'm too busy to do that. And I taught them some really basic things that you can do, really obvious. But one of them, which is probably one of my favourites, is meal planning. Right? Yeah. People might go, well, what's so exciting about that? Well, let me tell you, because meal planning does many things, right? It potentially saves you money, because when you're going shopping, you're just buying what you need. Because you've already planned your meals, you're taking away that element of oh my God, what are we going to have tonight? Raiding through all the cupboards. Oh, do you know what? Should we just get a takeaway? Because I just can't be bothered. It's too much effort, right? It's too much effort to think about it. It's too much effort to throw it together. And this is when all the bad habits start, right? So then you're throwing away the food that you've already bought because you just randomly chose stuff, and now you haven't eaten it, and now it's gone off, so you're throwing it away, right? So wasting food, spending money on takeaways, not eating healthily. But the other good thing about it is particularly if you've got a family, and particularly if you've got fussy eaters in your house, is you do this as a family gathering, right? Whatever, I mean, I go shopping on a Friday, so Thursday will be my menu planning, Thursday night. But if I had young kids, it'd be like, come on then, who wants what? We'd go through all the books that we've got, and then they all get to choose something, and then they all get to help cook it potentially. So you're bringing in that connection to the family, but also helping them to love food. And because they've chosen that meal, they're more likely to eat it, right? Because that, you know,
You'd like
and
to
then the other,
think. You'd like to.
you like to think, but I'm not saying it's going to work all the time, but it's another way of getting connection with your family. And I know this last statement's not always going to be possible, but where possible, sit around a table and eat together. We've always done that here, and it's all about catching up on everybody. But the rule of that though is there's no tech at the table, no phones, no iPads, no technology, because this is family time now. You sit and eat your dinner that maybe one of you's cooked, and share the stories of your day, and that's how you find out what's going on in your kids' lives.
Absolutely,
But
yeah.
it has to go, but you all do it. You don't just interrogate the kids. Do you know what I mean? And that way
No, I think I
you're
was going to say,
building that connection.
yeah, I was going to say listening. It's like actually teaching kids how to listen as well as talk. So, and us as parents as well, like actually not always leading the conversation, just taking that time just to listen and really hear them out. So I think that's something that, you know, that sometimes life is too frantic to really say what you want to say, or just have that space. So you don't have to talk, but just have that space or just to process. And also meal times, you know, just encouraging your kids to take a pause before they eat as well, and to focus on what's on their plate and where it may have come from.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
you know, and that gratitude thing as well, you know. You look how lucky we are that we've got such a mix of whatever it is on our plates, or
yeah,
I think
exactly.
it's
And if
a
they've
really
helped
tiny
create
thing.
that, and
Just
and if they've helped create that, and may even go shopping with you, even, I don't know, it depends, you know, people are probably going, oh God, no, thank you. But obviously you take or leave what elements out of this you want, don't you? But if they've really been involved in it, and they've even gone with you to buy the produce, how amazing is that? You know, so they get to understand what, you know, go to the shop and look for the best dates, and what's, you know, look at all the fruit and veg, and they go, what's that? You know, sometimes you do, didn't you? And I don't know.
it's quite essential. I saw something from Jamie Oliver actually this morning on social media, but it was about take your kids through a farmer's market and you know, get them to use their senses in terms of how things look, how things feel, how things smell, and just kind of just spike their interest. So it's not like, you know, you're going to go and eat a dragon fruit or whatever, but just like look what's out there, because kids are heavily marketed to, aren't they? So they're drawn towards the things they see in the adverts, and just that kind of interest in stuff that's come from nature, you know, and has been grown and is good, going to be, you know, really good wholesome nourishment, is really helpful as well. But I love the meal planning idea, and it's something I really need to get better at, because that is totally me at the end of the day going, oh God, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Yeah,
And it's wasted energy, isn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong.
absolutely.
Like sometimes, like we'll have the menu and we go, oh, we've got such and such, and we go, oh, should we not have that? And then, but we'll mix it up, or we'll go and check which thing's going to go out of date first, and then we'll eat that. But at least you've got the makings of it, and you've got the ideas already there. I mean, I'll be honest. Sometimes when I'm like, oh God, I've got to do menu planning, that feels like an overhead, but it's much quicker in the long run, because I might have to spend half an hour up front doing it, but it's going to save me hours in the long run. And when I go shopping, it's just like, because obviously you get your menu, and then you see what you got in the cupboard already, and then okay, I need to get that, you know, and then that's what you're buying then, and then you don't get as much waste. But
yeah, no,
yeah,
I like
that's
that.
what I
And
like doing.
you're investing in fuel. Like if you think of yourself as a car, you know, and you
Yeah.
need, you know, that's the fuel part is really important and can be overlooked. So I think you are taking some time, some precious time to do that. But if you think of it like, you know, that's going to be a really brilliant energy source for me to then get through whatever it is, all those challenging things I've got coming up. That's a brilliant thing to do, and pretty simple.
And whether we like it or not, we are what we eat, right? If we are filling our body with rubbish, then you can expect to feel rubbish. It's all connected, isn't it? If you're filling your body with healthy, nourishing food, then you will feel more energetic. You will look better because you're maybe not as overweight as you would be if you're going down the takeaway route or buying all the processed foods. And it's about going back to clean living, really, isn't it? And I get why people don't, because the clean living is more expensive. But yeah, you are what you are. You are what you eat. And then, and especially you don't have this problem yet, but when you start getting to middle-aged, right, you just look at stuff and you just put weight on anyway. And then it's even more important that before you go into the menopause, that you're healthy eating and exercising, because trust me, I've always been someone who's always relatively well and always exercised, but I've still struggled with it. And I do think about people who go into the menopause overweight. You're just going to get more overweight, because that's just the nature of our bodies and what's going to happen. So, little top tip for you: if you're in your 30s, 40s, get yourself sorted now. So you've got all that to look forward to. Yay!
Yeah. You're being very flattering, and I do know a lot about that already because of my age. But I think it's the power of the hormones, isn't it? That what I've realised is, you know, the estrogen was doing a job, and there's less of it, so you know, you're less able to keep the weight off. You know, that's just, and plus remember things, and all the other lovely things that come.
The other good stuff.
Yeah,
which that's for another day, right?
The power of hormones, you know, that's another thing in my job. You know, there's the stress hormones versus the feel good hormones. You know, that's also powerful. And I hadn't really ever appreciated how amazing estrogen is, and you know, not just estrogen, but I'm kind of learning about it. But
it's not a topic that you sound like you've been forced down to try work it out.
Well,
but tell
when
me,
things start happening, you think, oh, I better read up on this.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go back to the kids though, right? Because it's great that you get to work with the children, and I love that, and I think it's great. And I think I don't really know about education, but I know enough that it's not working properly for kids, trying to put square pegs in round holes, etc., etc. But again, that's another day conversation. However, I do believe it's really important that we do teach children about the power of the mind, about breathing techniques, coping mechanisms, all the good stuff that you've described in your beautiful 7-step relaxation process. However, that's all well and good, but if it's not going into the family, then the child will be able to make their own minds up. But if they get that negative impact when they go home and they go, what are you worrying about doing that for? Or they get home and say they're at the dinner table and go, oh, guess what, this lady come in today? Oh, don't be so bloody ridiculous, right? How do we fix that?
Yeah, that's so true. And I think with this Relaxed Kids, it's almost got the wrong name, because I think kids will come along to Relaxed Kids sessions and get so much from them. And there is a temptation for the parents to be like, brilliant, tick that one off, good. But if the kids are kind of going home to dysregulated parents, you know, this affects all of us. This should be relax everyone, because we all need it. And I think that's where I kind of trained as the functional breath coach, because I wanted a really quick, simple thing that I could do with all age groups. So, because I think sometimes teenagers were a little bit put off by, you know, the 7-step program, the Relaxed Kids title, even though I believe in all 7 steps. I think they apply all through your life up until the age of however long you live. But yeah, I think, you know, using a combination of it's all kind of bottom up regulation, learning how you can use your body to help with your mind, and yeah, just wanting to try and find ways to get that into families. So I think sometimes I run workshops with parents so that they understand the process, They can take little tools and techniques home to use with their kids. And I think really it does need to be a holistic approach to everybody learning about this stuff. It's so simple. And when I talk to people, sometimes I've done talks for teachers as well, and they're like, why has no one ever said this to me before? You know, why?
I know, that's what I get all the time as well. It's like, and this is interesting, isn't it? Because you know what you know, and I know what I know. Obviously, most of it very similar, but we forget people don't. And one of the hardest things I've had in creating my group program is keeping it simple enough and not overcomplicating it, because I've had to make sure that it is at ground zero, really, because otherwise, you could get people coming into it, go, oh God, I know all this. Well, fine, but just watch it and get on with it. Well, you should be able to fly through it then, shouldn't you? But like I said earlier, sometimes we can know stuff as well, but doing it's another thing. Now,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, and I always knew. Yeah, if you can say, oh yeah, I need to do meditation every day, but if you don't do it, then you're gonna don't start questioning why you're not getting any changes. Yeah, actually, that's a good question. What would you say is that from your experience that you found helps you the most doing your daily meditation or your daily breath work? Actually, let's start off. What is your daily process, and what do you think you benefit from?
Well, the thing that's really been like really life-changing for me is, and you talked about it earlier, is the coherent breathing. So, and I know that not all people can kind of get to a 6-6 breath. So again, that would be part of my
hard, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's, you know, taking people where they're at and moving them towards being able to do a 6 breaths per minute routine. So I have an app which is called the Paced Breathing app. It's a free app, and you can set it you know, for however many second inhale and exhale. So it's a 5.5 second inhale and exhale, and I do that for 10 minutes every day in the morning, and that helps with your heart rate variability, which is your heart's ability to cope with stress. And as you get older, particularly women of a certain age as well, like the heart rate variability really dips. So if you can do this 6 breathing, 6 breaths per minute breathing, it brings your nervous system, your heart rate, and what's the other thing? I wrote it down because I was like, I always forget what they are, but it brings basically your systems into alignment. So the longer that you do it for, everything's in a coherence, if you like, and it's brilliant for kind of improving your heart rate variability so that your heart is more able to cope in stressful periods. And what I found is, you know, I was quite an anxious driver, for example, because I practice every day, it seems to have had this incredible impact. And I don't tend to feel the anxiety, but if I do feel the anxiety, I do have other breathing exercises that I may use when I'm in the car, but increasingly I just don't feel it. I just have a kind of inner peace. So that for me has been incredibly powerful. And I do like to teach. That's something I do more with like teens and adults, and with the kids we're talking more about getting into our bellies. But actually, as adults, quite often, you know, there are so many breathing dysfunctions out there that we've forgotten how to breathe properly, and the diaphragm isn't moving as it should be, and we're not getting into the belly. So there's so much to do, like purely with the breath, and just being really mindful and taking a pause, like I said at the beginning, taking a pause and checking in with myself.
So when you're doing your breathing, is your plan though that you're just focusing on your breathing, so therefore you haven't got these little voices coming in your head as much because you are focusing on the breathing or counting?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is mindful because your focus is on your breath, and your breath brings you into the present moment. So it's certainly a mindful practice, but with and I guess if I'm pulled away by thoughts in my mind, then I will just refocus to my breath. So it is a mindful practice, but I wouldn't say it's like a pure mindfulness practice. But it's for me, it's been the kind of, because sometimes I would try to practice mindfulness and I would fall asleep, and that's just me. So this really works very well for me because I have a focus. I have the focus of the counting and following. With the app, you can like follow the sound, or you can even kind of download coherent breathing music where you breathe in.
Yeah, you can get it off YouTube and that, can't you? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and it's amazing. Yeah. So, but yeah, and then it's just taking the kind of a pause. You know, for me, it's like when I have a cup of tea. A lot of people would like grab their cup of tea on the run, and I just try and pause and let everything settle. Just quickly show, you've probably seen this a million times, but something I use with the kids, which is the calm jar, and talking about how when you're settled and calm, you know, you can see clearly, but then, you know, as you start kind of racing around or thinking about things, or your mind's racing, it's really hard to see clearly. So just taking that pause to let things settle, and maybe taking a couple of breaths.
That. Is that glitter in there then?
That's glitter. Yeah, just glitter and water. You can find out how to make them on YouTube. But just that simple kind of just let everything settle, because
we have that. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? And it's just a really simple, effective visual to just maybe imagine that's.
I'll just giving ourselves an idea. I don't know how much it would be, but you know, like it's a snow globe, isn't it? Effectively.
Yes.
So you could get like I could get Millieside snow globes.
Let everything settle. Yeah. Why not?
That's a good analogy, actually. Snow globe, isn't it?
Just let everything settle.
If you've got a visual like you've got, that's brilliant to show them. But if you were just talking to someone, you could go, imagine you've got a snow globe and you've just shaken it, and now you just need the snow to settle. I use an analogy. I use an analogy, and I think it's still going now. So I think it helps that it's still going now. But do you remember the game Kaplunk?
Yes.
So Kaplunk, the premise of it, isn't it? There's like a body tube thing that you've got all your little sticks.
Yeah.
And then you put your marbles on top, right? And obviously the objectives of the game is to not drop the marbles, right? But you got to flip that with this analogy. Just setting you up so you know which one it's about, right?
Okay.
So when you come and work with me, when you come and work with me, what we're going to do is we're going to go deep diving into your subconscious mind, and we're going to find all those limiting beliefs, feelings, trapped feelings and emotions, right? And we're going to gradually pull them out one by one until all of a sudden, bang, they all drop and you're clear of them.
Like it. Yeah.
So it might need a little bit of work, but probably a snow globe.
I think Kaplunk's still going as well. So you probably.
So go on.
You could probably still get the kids to relate to that. I'm thinking, is it still available? I know you know, our generation, we definitely know about Kaplunk, but hopefully it's still.
I mean, you could probably find a more recent game, but even something like Buckaroo or ones like that, isn't it? It's like you keep hanging that stuff on, and you keep putting more, and then all of a sudden you go bang, and you kick it all off. It's the same thing. There's probably loads of games that you can do it for, actually. And I'll tell you what I did last night in my training program, and anyone at home can do this, right? We're talking about hanging on to old stories. So I got them all to have a glass of water in their hands, right? And as I'm talking, I just like, if you hold that glass of water for a minute, that's okay, isn't it? Right? After a minute, it starts to get really heavy and brings you, and in the end, you want to put it down because your arm is just really aching. Well, imagine that's the stories that you're holding on to. If you've got story after story of negative beliefs that are you're just hanging on to that story, imagine how that's weighing you down, and you're carrying that around with you all day long. And it's about letting go of what's holding you back and freeing yourself from things, dropping things off.
It's like dropping the struggle, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, and that's why as well, when you get older, you find that maybe you're getting more ill than you ever did before, and you're visiting the doctor's surgery more often than you ever did before. You got these aches, you got these pains, you got a bit of arthritis, maybe a bit of autoimmune disease, a bit of diabetes, but you know, and it's like, why? Well, because that's all the trapped feelings and emotions that you've not released. And as you get older, you're just building and stacking. It's a stacking effect. And you mentioned it earlier about it's your mind's job to keep you safe. That's all its job is, really, is to keep you safe, right? So it will do what it needs to do to keep you safe. Now, if that means it's going to stop you from doing something like fear, anxiety, it will kick in and you won't be able to do it. You'll have an anxiety attack or a panic attack or a migraine or something like that, because it's there to keep you safe. And if you keep ignoring the messages and feelings that your body's sending you, it's going to just stack up as illness.
And that's all inflammation, isn't it? Inflammation, stress causes inflammation, which builds up.
Yeah, stress causes disease, right? Anyway, on that note, I've just looked at the time. At the beginning of this, Sarah said, how long are we on for? I went, when we hit 40 minutes, we've got to stop. We're now on 46. Rick is going to kill me. So before we go, Sarah, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to do a shout out for anything that you've got coming up, or where people can find you, whatever it is it feels right at this moment to say.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for having me on. And I appreciate that you're going to be showing this is on the socials. So please do look up Mindfulness and find out more about my work as a relaxed kids coach and functional breath coach. I work with children, but also with young people and adults. And hopefully, having had this conversation, you can see hopefully my passion shines through in terms of what I'm trying to do. So thank you.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does, darling. And thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. And I'm sure we'll connect again soon. And same for me, really. As I said at the beginning, you can find me. Most of my socials are Millieside Therapy and Coaching, apart from Instagram, which is Julie Millieside. You can go over to my YouTube channel and find this video and all my other interviews, plus all my client testimonial interviews and client videos. So thank you so much for watching. And if you're feeling that you can, I'm going to do a shout out to anyone who can help me to help more people, and the same for Sarah, right? If any of you know any children or any adults that Sarah can help, please reach out. For me, my passion is adults, really, but it's really getting them to uncover their old limiting beliefs that's keeping them stuck. So I want to get people from stuck to unstoppable. And that is stress, that is overwhelm, that is lack of confidence, that is anxiety. We don't have to live with this. We can actually free ourselves from most of it. And I will teach you tools and techniques to do that. And so will Sarah. So don't be stuck in your life, really. Let's get unstuck and let's get on our own unstoppable journey and live our lives, because we do only get one crack at it. So thank you for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time on my Become Unstoppable series. Bye for now.